Have you ever thought about something? It may be an existential question that makes you rethink your very existence. Or maybe even something mundane, such as what you want to eat for lunch. Whichever the case, that is proof that you yourself exist. Because, as Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Whenever you think, or whatever you think of, is proof that you certainly exist.
But how did one simple yet philosophical quote come to be? Hi, my name is Yusuf Baisa,
And I am June Mabo. And,
and
we're here to talk about Rene Descartes.
But before we talk about his philosophical revelations, we must first find out who Rene Descartes is.
Now, who is Rene Descartes?
Well, Rene Descartes, also known as the father of modern philosophy, is most famous for creating methodological skepticism, also called the method of doubt. This means rejecting everything that can possibly be doubted in order to find truths that are absolutely certain. From this, he arrived at his most famous conclusion, cogito ergo sum, which stands for I think, therefore I am. But Descartes wasn't only a philosopher. He also made major contributions to mathematics and science, helping shape the way we think about knowledge and discovery.
Now that we know who Rene Descartes is, let us now move on to.
Now, let's actually talk about Rene Descartes' Meditation 1.
First of all, what purpose do you think meditation is about? Well, for Descartes, his goal was to find certain and reliable knowledge. In his youth, many of the beliefs he accepted turned out to be false. And because the knowledge he gained was built on those shaky foundations, he realized that everything is doubtful. For him to find certain and reliable knowledge, he believed that he must reject all beliefs that can be doubted and rebuild knowledge from a secure foundation. Thus, his method of doubt is to treat as false anything that can be doubted, even if it's only slightly.
As such, Descartes began to doubt everything. He doubted his senses, his dreams, he doubted math. He even started to doubt God. Everything and anything he once believed in, he doubted. All of this was only but a step for him to find absolute certainty. First, he doubted the senses. Most of our beliefs stem from our five senses. Yet, even our own senses can deceive us. Things like optical illusions and auditory illusions are examples of such deception. And because they can deceive us, they cannot be fully trusted. But even if the senses do sometimes deceive us with small or distant things, aren't there things that we cannot reasonably doubt? As Descartes said, I am sitting by the fire, wearing a dressing gown, holding this paper. Judging by his example, we can say that although our senses do sometimes deceive us, it doesn't mean that we should fully and utterly doubt it. Rather, what we should do is question the senses and not just blindly trust it. One argument that gives us a reason to doubt our senses are our dreams. Whenever we dream, everything feels just as real as when we're awake. For example, in a dream, you might feel like you're walking, talking, or maybe even eating food. And you'll just think that everything that you're currently experiencing is real. But when you wake up, you'll realize that it is all but an illusion. Because of this, there is no reliable sign to tell us if we're dreaming or awake. Since our dreams can sometimes copy our reality so well, we can never be completely certain that what we see or feel right now isn't also a dream. But even if our dreams are illusions, they're still made up of the basic building blocks that can be considered as real. Much like how a painting's content is imaginary, yet the colors that were used are real. Some of these building blocks include the corporeal nature, or the idea of having a physical body, the extension, or the idea of taking up space, and so much more. Without building blocks like these, our mind cannot create the illusions of our dreams. Speaking of what's real and what isn't, Descartes explains that science that studies complex things, like physics, astronomy, and medicine, can be doubted as they rely on our senses. Meanwhile, sciences that study simple truths, such as math and geometry, seem more certain. This is because, whether we dream or not, facts like 2 plus 3 is 5 or a square is made up of 4 sides will always hold true. But what if there's a chance that even math is false? Sure, a simple fact like 2 plus 3 is equal to 5 is true whenever we're awake or dreaming. But what if there's a possibility that an all powerful God could make us mistaken about simple facts like math? Descartes taps into the possibility that a powerful higher being can make us mistaken about math. He also questions that even if God is good, mankind still makes errors, which is why there is still room for doubt. And on the off chance that we were created by chance or faith and God didn't create us, then our imperfections and errors would be even more likely. As such, Descartes deduced that even math can be doubted. But what if there's a higher being that wants to deceive us into thinking that something is true when it actually isn't? This is where Descartes really began to push his doubts above and beyond. He imagines that a powerful and malicious deceiver, or an evil genius, is tricking him about everything. He also imagines that this deceiver could potentially trick him into thinking that colors exist, even if they don't, make him believe that he has eyes, hands, and a body when he has none, and deceive him about simple math and logic. Thus, Descartes decided that he was going to suspend judgment on everything until he finds something absolutely certain that it cannot be doubted. As Descartes continued to try and doubt everything, he noticed that his old beliefs kept coming back at him out of habit. Since he was taught about these beliefs when he was younger, these long held opinions feel natural, and as such, are difficult to resist. To fight against this, Descartes decided to act as though all of his old beliefs are completely false and imaginary, so that he can be free from the shackles of his old beliefs. He compared the struggle he faced to a prisoner who tries to escape from reality by dreaming of freedom, but eventually waking up to a grim and harsh truth. Descartes forces himself to wake up from the comfort of his old beliefs, even if it feels difficult, all in order for him to continue doubting and eventually reach absolute certainty.
In conclusion, Meditation 1 is about Descartes' use of radical doubt to question everything, including the senses, dreams, and even mathematics. His goal is not about proving something is true, but about tearing down all uncertain beliefs and weak foundations so that way he can prepare to rebuild knowledge on what is absolutely certain and indubitable.
If, due to possibilities like dreaming and the presence of a deceiver, we doubt our entire reality, is there anything at all we can know for certain? This is Descartes' goal in his second meditation. In order to rid his mind of any false beliefs he held, Descartes discards all that which can be doubted. Afterwards, he aimed to find a single indubitable truth, a foundation for his pursuit of other truths and the sciences. This meditation will focus on the following questions. What is certain? What is the self? What is thinking? And where does knowledge come from? Descartes finds one certain piece of knowledge. I am. I exist. This is certain whenever he thinks. Why? Because even if he is to be deceived, he must first exist to be deceived. If he doubts or imagines, he exists. The consciousness that experiences and senses things, regardless if these are false or true, exists because these perceptions are part of thinking. And to think means he must first exist. Descartes next tries to define the self. He knows that he exists, but what is he? Before his meditations, he believed himself to be a man. He believed himself to have flesh, bones, and soul, and that he walked and ate throughout his life. But the existence of a physical body and all that he sensed with it may be an illusion. He claimed also that he was not vapor, fire, or breath, which he attributed to the soul, and he assumed all of these did not actually exist. But what cannot be doubted is that he is thinking. It is inseparable from him and his consciousness. Therefore, judging only from what he knew for certain at this point, the self is a thinking thing, its essence an incorporeal mind. What then is thinking? It is not just reasoning and calculating. The act of thinking includes mental activities such as doubting, understanding, conceiving, affirming, denying, willing, refusing, imagining, and feeling. And while many believe these processes require a brain, and therefore a body, in line with this postulation of the non-existence of the body and the incorporeal existence of the mind, Descartes disagrees. This is important because it means that even if what the mind imagines or experiences through the senses may not be real, the act of imagining and feeling is real, just as it would be in a dream. Descartes cites an example. He perceives through his senses that he sees light, hears noise, and feels heat. Suppose that these perceptions are false. It will still seem to him that he sees light, hears noise, and feels heat. Regardless of their accuracy, his mind still experiences them. This proves that the act of thinking is a certain truth. In order to understand physical objects, Descartes uses a piece of wax as an example. A piece of wax has certain qualities. Taken freshly from the hive, we see its color and shape. We smell its scent, and when we touch it, we feel that it is hard and cold. It is through observation with the senses that we distinctly recognize the object as a piece of wax. But when placed near a flame, all these qualities change. The wax melts, becomes hot and soft. Despite this, we still recognize the wax as the same substance. This understanding cannot be accomplished through the five senses alone. Rather, it is the mind which assesses information and grasps the essence of wax as something that can change under certain conditions. From this thought experiment, we can conclude that it is through the mind, not the senses, that we can recognize, reflect, and infer. Clear and certain knowledge is gained through reasoning and thinking. If instead the melted wax was examined with the senses alone, we would have thought it was no longer the same object. However, this implies that we only know external objects through our own perceptions. The senses do not provide complete information but only impressions of an object. Our mind then processes this information, forms ideas, and connects them. For example, the eyes may see shapes, colors, distance, and angles, but it is the mind that interprets these as space and distinct objects, such as curtains, bags, chairs, or rooms, by relying on prior knowledge. In this way, we never perceive objects exactly as they are in themselves. This poses a problem, especially when you consider how prone the mind is to error and misunderstandings. Thus, we know the body and external objects indirectly and with unreliable information. For this reason, the mind is more easily known than the body and other external things.
Ultimately, Descartes' Meditation 2 establishes the foundation of his philosophy by proving the first certain truth, that the self exists as a thinking being. Even when everything else can be doubted, the act of thinking is undeniable. He then demonstrates that the mind is separate from the body and shows that knowledge arises from reason rather than the senses. With this, he solidifies beliefs needed to attain further knowledge.